On behalf of Colorado Springs City Council, let me welcome everybody to this 25 March Town Hall that we have set up to discuss the regulation of retail pet store sales of dogs and cats. We've got Councilmember Bill Murray with us. We have any other, and we've got President Richard Scorman. Have we got any other council members that are on the line?
Just you three from what we can see.
All righty, great. The plan, a lot of times when I hold town halls, and this is my first one of 2021, is I get a lot of feedback sometimes that the public doesn't get a chance to talk. And either the city staff speakers kind of dominate the conversation or city council members do. So this one is really for you. We've got about 90 minutes set up on this Microsoft Teams program. And the reason that we've kind of set this up is that in our last city council meeting in February, where I was looking to get the temperature of city council to see if we had enough support to go forward with an ordinance that would cover the regulation of pet store sales. At that time, it didn't seem like we had the majority of council ready to go forward with an ordinance. And there were three reasons that I heard from other council members. One was not enough public engagement or public contact. And therefore, we have set up this town hall to begin that process and to continue the momentum that I think we've started in this discussion about pet store sales of dogs and cats, and obviously puppy mill issues are at the heart of this. So public engagement was number one. Number two, council members talked about the fact that the ordinance may interfere with the private enterprise and private businesses. And, that was something that council member did not really want to get engaged with, that we would take jobs away or affect our business economy in Colorado Springs. And the third area was that the ordinance that we had proposed at that time was one that we had kind of drafted and looked at other communities and cities, but it wasn't customized to Colorado Springs as well as we would like it to be. And so I have talked to our city attorneys about looking at the ordinance so that we could customize it to the needs that we have in Colorado Springs. I think most of you know we've got 2 pet stores in the city limits of Colorado Springs that sell puppies. And I've gotten feedback from people that are in fact have gone to those stores, and I have in fact gone and stopped by those stores myself. So those are the three things, and kind of teeing us up for this discussion. I am going to let Alex, who's kind of our public relations, public affairs expert, kind of monitor the people that would like to talk. We will be taking close notes of what you have to say so that we can keep up the momentum and then decide where to go next with that step. And so before I say anything further, Richard, did you have anything you wanted to say at all?
I think you've said it well, and I apologize to everybody. I'm having Alex record this so I can watch it a little bit later as well, but I can't be here for the whole meeting. I have another one at 5:30 that's related to affordable housing, and so I'm going to definitely watch the video of it and hear everybody's opinions, but I just wanted to apologize in advance, and Tom is going to be the one to run this. So go ahead, Tom. Yeah.
Okay, Richard. And Bill Murray, did you have any comments before we turn this over to the attendees?
No, I'm looking forward to listening to what they have to say. Thank you.
All right, terrific. Alex, it's over to you.
All right, thanks, Tom. So we ask that everybody keep their discussion civil, and we're going to try and keep everybody close to 3 minutes. I'll put a timer on the screen so that everybody can see how much time they have left. If you happen to go over just a little bit, that is okay too. Just try and be respectful of everybody else's time as well so that everybody has a chance to speak. All right, our first person up is going to be Sandra Savatman, and we will get you going here on the timer.
All right. Thank you for letting me speak. As many of you know, Colorado Springs has a distinction of being somewhere between the first and the sixth dog-friendliest city in America, depending on the source. Most of us are proud of that honor, but we are not living up to that distinction by allowing the sale of puppy mill puppies in 2 of our pet stores. It saddens me that we'll allow the sale of these cute puppies, because for every cute puppy sold in a pet store in Springs, a mother and father are trapped in a small cage with substandard food and minimal human interaction with little or no vet care. They're forced to breed every cycle for sometimes their entire lives until they die trapped in that small cage, or they're lucky enough to be auctioned off because they're no longer valuable to a puppy mill owner. I own 3 puppy mill rescues. 13-year-old Tiny Tim is a 5-pound Yorkie with no teeth and a broken mandible that was never repaired. After 5 years with us, he still cowers in the corner when I go to pick him up. 7-year-old Atticus is a Pomeranian that's been with us for 5 years. He has had over 30 teeth pulled because of substandard food and chewing on cage bars for over 2 years. Our 12-year-old Pom Rosie has Cushing's disease. If she was still in a puppy mill, she'd be dead because it wouldn't be cost effective to treat her. We've heard over and over how the 2 pet stores buy from responsible breeders. Although their sources are puppy mills, responsible breeders would never sell to a pet store because they want to meet prospective buyers for their puppies. Please consider making Colorado Springs a truly pet-friendly city by helping to protect all those dogs who are still caged in puppy mills throughout the United States and not being pampered by a loving family here in Springs. Let us value the humane treatment of animals over the value of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Our next speaker is going to be Francelle Moore. If you are ready.
I know this is Pam Horton. I think Francelle was still having a hard time getting in. I'm not sure she's in yet.
I did send her the link.
Yeah, she said she got it. And she still seemed to be having some problems. And I'm not talking to her at the moment, but at last I did talk to her. She was still trying to get in.
No problem. I think that we can be okay coming back to her. And Pam, you're actually up next. So.
Oh, okay. Oh,
if
yeah,
you would
that'd
like
be
to
great.
speak, it is your time now.
All right, thank you. Well, hello, my name is Pam Horton, and I have grown up here in Colorado Springs, and I am here to talk about pet stores and puppy mills. I do want to begin with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. The greatness of a nation can be judged by the way its animals are treated, and I firmly believe that. We do not and are not trying to put anyone out of business. We are simply trying to make businesses become more humane and accountable. Pet stores can continue to make a living by doing this through adoption, not from buying from puppy mills. Let me assure you that responsible breeders do not sell to pet stores. Pet store puppies come from large breeders, and most often these would fall into the puppy mill category. I have had 7, I'm going to try not to cry at this point. I have had 7 rescued former puppy mill dogs in my home. The mommies that are left behind after their puppies are taken from them, and these are the ones that are forced to live in the horror of puppy mills every day. Between all of them, they had a total of 7 teeth. They had missing bone in their jaws because of no proper vetting, limbs that did not work from living on wire, no hair from being out in the elements 24/7, skin that would literally tear because of malnutrition, fear biting, untreated seizures, massive mammary tumors left to grow and grow, one actually ruptured, requiring emergency surgery, and a complete and utter fear of human beings. They were bred every time they went into heat for years and years, and if you totaled up the years that just my dogs spent breeding in a puppy mill, it added up to 67 and a half years. 5 of my dogs died as a direct result of the abuse and neglect they suffered from breeding in a puppy mill. I've heard several people refer to these dogs as products. And I would like to know what kind of world we have created that we can sit in a room and refer to any living being as a product. They are living, breathing animals. They feel fear. They feel pain. They feel hunger and thirst, and they mourn their babies and the loss of their friends. You can try to remove the fact that we're talking about living beings by calling them products, but these animals have a right not to be abused, neglected, harmed, live in pain and fear their whole lives because we as humans refuse to do the extra work to ensure that things are done humanely. Going a humane route would not only give our community a place to adopt rescued dogs, but it would also be a way for the pet store to stay in business by adopting out these rescued dogs. This current way might be how things have been done. But when we see that there is a better way, then change is necessary, and you have the power to make this change. These dogs might not be able to tell you about the horrors they're forced to live day in and day out, but they do have a voice. It's mine and many others who have heard from, and you will continue to hear from us as long as this inhumane process exists, because we will always speak for those who have no voice. If you all want more information on this, please go to www.bailingoutbenji.com, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Pam. That was almost right at 3 minutes. Perfect. Just for anybody that's joined, we're giving speakers 3 minutes to speak. A lot of people have already signed up ahead of time, but if you would like to speak and you are not already signed up, we should have some time at the end, and we'll try and get to people that have not already signed up. You are also more than welcome to send me an email, alex.ryden, R-Y-D-E-N, at coloradosprings.gov during the meeting, and I can get you on the list that way as well. Our next speaker, if Francelle is on, we'll come back to her. If not, Bonnie Dunlop will be. Francelle, are you on?
Actually, Alex, I just talked to Francelle. She's on her phone, but could you unmute her? She could hear us, but she just needs to be unmuted.
Sure. It is *6 to unmute. And yeah, so Francelle, if you press *6 on your phone, it'll unmute you.
Oh, hello?
Hello, Francelle.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, finally. I'm old and I'm not tech savvy. Okay, we got it. Okay, you ready?
You're ready. Go ahead.
I'm ready. Okay. Well, thank you, City Council, for addressing this important issue today. First of all, I want to start by saying that contrary to what the opposition will say, we are not attempting to close these 2 stores that sell puppies and kittens. We want them to transition to a humane business model like 3 states and hopefully another that is in the works right now, and over 375 localities have done. This business, as it is an outdated business model and contributes to animal cruelty. We have heard it mentioned by council that when visiting the stores, how clean they are. This ordinance has nothing to do with the pet store looking clean. What we need to focus on is that we domesticated the dog and cat, and being bred in puppy kitten mills is just wrong. We have been speaking with City Council now for 4 years, and personally, I feel that is 4 extra years of abuse that didn't have to happen. Anyone can go to their website and see statements under the Our Breeders page. They state they get their puppies from hobby breeders as defined by the Animal Welfare Act, who raise dogs in a humane manner. The fact is that hobby breeders are exempt from the AWA, as well as the laws and regulations of at least 19 states. Also, calling a breeder a hobby breeder does not automatically mean their dogs are raised in a humane manner. They also say their breeders meet a list of their own stringent rules and restrictions. Each and every one of the items listed on their website as their own rules and restrictions are requirements under the AWA. These are not Pet City store rules, they're USDA rules. The USDA license is a survival standard, not a welfare standard. Due to time limits today, I won't share so many inconsistencies we've heard, but they will obviously be heard as we transition into the new council. Thank you.
Thank you, Francelle. Our next speaker is going to be Bonnie Dunlop. Bonnie, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Good evening. You have and will hear plenty of evidence as to why commercial breeding is cruel, immoral, and not reflective of society's values. Therefore, I will be discussing the impact of commercial breeding on consumers and why an ordinance banning the sale of commercially bred puppies and kittens is necessary for the protection and safety of Colorado Springs residents. As an attorney with 19 years of legal experience, I've had numerous clients that sought to take legal action against pet stores such as Pet City. Because puppies and kittens from Mills are more likely to have health problems, it was not unusual for me to hear of someone spending between $10,000 to $15,000 on vet bills only to end up with a dead puppy or a dead kitten. In addition to the financial hardship, these people were heartbroken and distraught. Unfortunately, there are no lemon laws in Colorado to protect these types of consumers. The only legal remedy is the contract written conveniently by the pet store and in favor of the pet store. And under most contracts, the dog owner is offered a refund or another puppy. But when faced with a sick or dying pet who has now become a member of your family, most people choose not to give the puppy or kitten back, but rather focus their efforts on saving their pet. Furthermore, pet stores take advantage of consumers with predatory lending at their shops, often financing already inflated prices anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 with unprincipled interest rates. Credit lending services such as WAGS Lending, My Pet Funding, Easy Pay, and Lending USA are just few of the lending companies that partner with pet stores in order to scam the public. You can see through their websites that some of these companies will lend up to $35,000 to a single family with an interest rate of 30%. According to Scam Finance, the company Easy Pay offers loans with interest rates averaging between 129 and 200%. Combined, Lending USA and Petland Credit Card have over 1,145 complaints issued through the Better Business Bureau alone in the last 3 years. By not passing this ordinance, you are allowing Colorado Springs consumers to be victims to vicious lending schemes. Colorado has already attacked other predatory lenders such as payday loans. It is time to put an end to this practice as well. Additionally, mill puppies are unsocialized before heading to pet stores and are often taken away from their mothers too soon, which leads to dangerous and more aggressive animals. They become a danger to society by biting people or killing other animals, or they could simply end up in shelters due to behavioral issues, now becoming a burden to taxpayers of Colorado Springs. In 2 large-scale studies of dogs from high-volume commercial breeding establishments, the evidence showed conclusively that these breeding facilities cause severe, extensive, and long-term harm to the behavioral and psychological well-being of dogs. The study also found that compared with dogs obtained as puppies from non-commercial breeders, dogs from pet stores had significantly greater aggression towards human family members, unfamiliar people, and other dogs, and greater separation-related problems and house soiling. Lastly, I hear that there is a concern for a few select businesses that sell puppies and kittens from mills, that these unscrupulous predators may lose profits if this ordinance passes. I doubt they will close, as there are many business models out there that sell rescues from their stores. This is about greed, pure and simple. And these owners are selling a product that is dangerous for consumers in our community.
We have to ask you to wrap it up soon, okay?
Oh, sure. When we recall products due to safety, there is no concern for lost profits. The concern is simply for the innocent consumer. Therefore, it should be public safety, animal welfare, and what is best for Colorado Springs. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter.
Thank you, Bonnie. Our next speaker will be Rachel Knowles. Rachel, are you there?
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I'm a Colorado native, and I'm here today to speak because I first learned about puppy mills a few years ago when I met a mother dog that had been rescued from one. She was malnourished, covered in scars, and terrified of people and other dogs. Hearing about the trauma and abuse she'd been through in order to produce as many puppies as possible, without any regard for the well-being of her or her puppies, horrified me. Knowing this, I was heartbroken when I discovered that we have 2 major pet stores here in Colorado Springs that sell puppy mill dogs, and that most people that use dogs have no idea that they come from mills. I know from recent experience that if you ask employees at either of these locations where the dogs come from, they'll tell you that they come from AKC certified breeders. With how cute these puppies are and the high price point they come at, it's easy to see why this would be enough to convince buyers that they come from ethical breeders. However, whether the employees and customers know it or not, this is far from the truth. The nonprofit organization Bailing Out Benji, which is dedicated to providing the most accurate and current information on puppy mills, has listed on their website where these dogs really come from. There you can see that they do in fact come from mills, as well as the staggering amount of dogs and puppies at each one, and that many of them are completely unlicensed. In fact, the very first mill listed for both these locations, which is Levi Graber Blue Ribbon Puppies, has been ranked by the Humane Society as one of the worst in the country. I believe that we as Coloradans are above this, and it's our duty to protect both dogs and consumers by preventing stores from partnering with mills. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, our next speaker is going to be Julia Archer. Julia, are you there? Julia, I see you on.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Hey!
All right, it is your turn to speak.
Thank you. Hi, council and community. Please listen to my comments with an open mind and heart. I have 5 points to support a ban and restriction of sales of commercially bred puppies and kittens. The first one, our family has never needed to purchase a commercially bred pet from a store. Of the 3 million cats and dogs that are presently being euthanized in shelters, even as we have this meeting, 80% are healthy and treatable and could have been adopted into new homes. We have more than enough pets for everyone. My second point, as has been mentioned, 3 states, 375 communities like ours have banned puppy mill sales. 5 more states have pending legislation. 24 out of 25 pet store chains have already removed the sale of commercially bred dogs and cats from their business models and their stores. So my third point is, if the only way a business can make a profit is on the suffering of others, either animals or people, then the business formula must change. We shop at the Petco by the Costco up on University. I learned that through the Petco Foundation, Petco has helped over 5 million pets find new homes. I've been to 2 of their adoption fairs. Not one puppy or dog is from a commercial breeder. These businesses are thriving. People respond to compassionate business practices. If Petco can do it, if PetSmart can do it, other pet stores, including the local pet stores in our town, can surely transition as well. So I've got 2 more points. The fourth one, and this is the biggest, is the reality of animal suffering. Even without all of the facts we know about the sale of the puppies themselves, the invisible suffering happens in those facilities. We don't see it. The commercial breeding model itself only works when female dogs are kept in cages their entire lives and are impregnated over and over. The life and end of these imprisoned dogs is neither gentle nor good. So my last point is, what are our values as a community? Embedded in the current model of commercial breeding is indifference to the suffering of the dogs, whose only purpose is to pump out products for sale. This truly cruel indifference is what we must reject as a community. So many positive options are available, and they're already working. Our companion animals deserve better, and we can make the right decision as a community. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you, Julia. Our next speaker will be Christine Varcelino. I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Christine. You're set.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christine Varcelino, and I want to thank the council for the opportunity to speak in very strong support of the Colorado Springs Humane Pet Store Ordinance. And you might remember I was also a member of the Bear Smart Task Force. Some of you may recall I was the one with the sign up front. Okay, so we have learned of the many egregious horrors of puppy mills throughout these past years, and it is estimated that there are still thousands of puppy mills still operating, and very few are sufficiently regulated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The majority of these puppies in pet stores come from puppy mills, and this is the major reason why these mills still exist and are trafficking canines across state lines. This is not a humane business model for our community, and it is extremely outdated. Pet stores buy the animals without seeing for themselves the sordid conditions that we have learned about. The unsuspecting buyer finds many times that these dogs have significant physical and behavioral problems, and we've learned that many are way beyond help. They fall sick and they die. Who speaks for the animals in this? No one. It is documented by various prominent organizations, for example, the Humane Society, that ethical breeders do not sell puppies to the first person that hands them money. They raise their dogs like many of us would, responsible owners with good care, both medical and emotional. We've learned about the states that have enacted statewide bans on the sale of puppy mill dogs in pet stores, and we know that many other legislators are considering the same. Did you know that shelter dogs and cats are Colorado's official state pets? Well, change is hard when a lot of money is to be made, but that doesn't mean that we can't change successfully or that we shouldn't. What we know about something evolves over time, such as in this case. That is why there is growing momentum in other states as the public continues to become aware of the pet store puppy mill connection. But what doesn't change is what is fundamentally right or wrong. We've learned that millions of healthy dogs and cats are euthanized in our shelters. So who speaks for the animals? Well, we do, and we must. Many of us here share our homes with a dog or a cat, so we must speak up for them now. It is time to join those states that are banning the sale of puppy mill dogs. We have a responsibility to consumers, to the animals that we say we love and cherish, and to our community, because in my opinion, this defines our community and who we are as people. Thank you so very much for listening and for your time.
Thank you, Christine. Our next speaker is going to be Claudia Stickney. Claudia, are you there? Claudia, if you were called in, *6 unmutes you on the phone. I don't see your number. All right, we'll come back to you, Claudia, if you are there. Our next speaker is going to be Johnny Lieberman. Johnny, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, John. You're all set.
Thank you. So, my name is Johnny Lieberman. I am a resident here in Colorado Springs in District 3, and my short ask is that, like everyone has been saying, Colorado Springs City Council joined the growing number of municipalities and localities nationwide that are saying, not in my town, to puppy mills and the businesses that support them. And please enact an ordinance that bans the sale of puppies from pet stores to help shut down the local puppy mill pipeline. I had other comments to say, which have kind of already been covered. One thing I did want to bring up, which is not reported too much, but HSUS has touched on it, is I can't agree more. I agree with everything that's been said for sure in terms of the unfairness and that someone needs to speak up on behalf of the puppies. There's also a significant public health risk. I am a physician that practices infectious diseases. The 2 pet stores here locally continue to source their puppies from the Levi Graber, who has been linked to 2 outbreaks of Campylobacter. And as was brought up in the recent discussion, someone did a quick Google search and found that Campylobacter is rarely fatal, and the impression that was left And my interpretation of the meeting is that, therefore, it can be disregarded. I want to point out a couple of things with that faulty logic. One is, if everyone is aware, COVID is also rarely fatal. Sure, the numbers are staggering because hundreds of millions of people are infected, but like Campylobacter, most people recover from it without incident. That's not to disregard it in any means or to trivialize the people who have suffered from it, but saying that an illness that is brought in by this horrible industry and transmits disease to humans, it should be disregarded, I think is irresponsible at the worst. And it's also probably just the tip of the iceberg, because an illness that can cause a gastrointestinal illness for 24 to 48 hours often gets underreported, just like someone who gets the sniffles for a couple of days may not go to their doctor, and you don't know exactly what it is. So are there coming outbreaks of Salmonella, Shigella, other illnesses out there? Is brucellosis going to start to get transmitted? And going along those lines, a reminder that the conditions which COVID was born and transmitted to humans are very similar to the conditions that exist in puppy mills: close confinement, unsanitary conditions, disease infestations, similar to swine flu outbreak, which was a few years ago. Very similar. You keep animals in close confinement, you don't treat them well, humans are nearby, there's disease transmission, there's a public health risk, which has not been mentioned, which I think is very important that be addressed, as well as the concern for animals and the deception that's out there.
Thank you, Johnny. Looks like Bill has his hand up. Go ahead, Bill.
Yes, I'm very supportive. I consider this a tragedy in two ways. One, because we haven't taken action, but two, that we have having to wait for the new council to take action. So the question is there anyone in the queue at all who, from any of the pet stores or anything else, that has a different argument about us taking action in support of these animals?
All right, Bill, are you all finished up? I don't think you got a response on that one.
I did get was that a response?
I don't think you did.
No, it came out as a grumble. Is there anybody on here who's opposed to this kind of thing?
All right, well, our next speaker is going to be Carolyn Beavers. Susan, I see your hand up. Are you wanting to speak? Are you wanting to have a time to comment? Because people that haven't signed up can comment at the end, and I'll make sure I get to you. All right, Carolyn Beavers not on. All right, our next speaker then will be Kelsey Stein.
Hello. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you, Kelsey. You're up.
Okay, so thank you all for taking the time to hear our comments. In 2020, I adopted a puppy mill survivor. Her name is Clove, and she is a 6-year-old beagle. She was rescued from one of the mills located in Kansas that supplies many of these pet stores with puppy. When we first got her, she was terrified of everything, unused to touch, and was scared of every little noise, even with the wind blowing in her face. She had been kept in a small kennel most of her life and was only handled when she was being coldly grabbed to breed every 6 months to pump out litter after litter for these stores. Because of the poor conditions she was made to live in and never touching a solid floor, only living on top of metal wires, her paws are incredibly damaged. They are constantly swollen, red, and hairless between the pads, and they pour with blood at least once a week. We can't even walk her up and down our street as it is too painful for her. Even after multiple rounds of antibiotics, foot soaks, and other treatments, her only chance of getting better at this point is a surgery that would completely alter the natural structure of her paws and probably cause other problems down the line, not to mention being expensive for us. These facilities do not have the welfare of these animals in mind. As may have been mentioned before, the USDA license given to some of these facilities is a survival standard, not a welfare standard. When I was younger, my family unknowingly bought a puppy mill puppy from a pet store. We were given no information about where she came from, her parents, or the quality of their lives until we researched it years later. She was riddled with health issues. When I was 10 and she was 3, I looked into her loving, happy, innocent eyes. She could not understand, nor could I explain to her why she could no longer move anything below her neck, or why bad breeding practices and the poor conditions she was brought into this world in would mean at her young age, and with so much life left to give, she was being made to cross the Rainbow Bridge. I do not believe that this regulation will in any way cause the closure of these pet stores or loss of jobs. Many other businesses successfully operate on the same business model that is being proposed. In fact, there are many small, local pet stores in the area who are thriving without needing to sell a single animal. Shelters will benefit as there will be more exposure for their animals, and sourcing from local, reputable breeders will be good for the local community. Most importantly, prospective pet owners will be able to have the transparency they deserve and be able to make informed choices on the pet they are thinking to purchase or rehome. Hopefully this will help the pain and expense many families go through like my family did. I fail to see why there would be any opposition to this unless there is something to hide or the motive is profit over welfare. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. Our next speaker is going to be Gracie Keeler. Gracie, are you there?
I'm here. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you great.
Oh, thank you. All right. So I'm Gracie Keeler, and I would like to thank you for this opportunity to listen to constituents here in Colorado Springs about this extremely important issue with puppy mills, inhumane practices, which has been going on for far too long right here in our beautiful Colorado Springs. Briefly, I would like to mention that as a vegan, I'm a voice for the voiceless. So this bill is close to my heart and another opportunity to speak for them and help regulate the ordinances around puppy mills. We feel surreal to be still trying to pass a bill such as this for this basic animal welfare, given the severe catastrophic ramifications we have all witnessed due to the standard animal agricultural business practice allowed to continue without accountability today. I would like for everybody to think for a moment, and I know you all have. Many of us have, especially on the opposing side, have bought for our children and loved ones to share, in many cases, puppies and kittens over the years. Of course, no one wants to bring home a sick puppy, in which many cases end up dying due to the horrible conditions they were forced to live in for maximum profit. The only reason these puppy mills are able to be this disingenuous about their profits and practices is due to the lack of ordinances needed to be put in place to regulate them. These business models must change to reflect what Colorado Springs stands for as an animal-friendly city. Animal welfare is human welfare. The current epidemic, which is still affecting the entire world, is a blunt statement of what happens when we neglect to take action towards basic standard humane practices towards other species when they're not held accountable. Just like the many zoonotic epidemics which started with the abuse, exploitation, and cruelty towards other animals, puppy mills are a perfect haven for another epidemic to rise right here in Colorado Springs. Puppies and kittens are crowded in cages without proper veterinary care, regulations to hold them accountable, lack of adequate food and water, endless pregnancies for females producing weaker babies, filthy conditions, and in considering humans a lot of times tending to these innocent beings, which in many cases brutality has been reported to occur as well. And we still need to explain over the many years why this law is so important to be finally passed. If we continue to ignore this issue like many others before us regarding the lack of compassion in our communities, we'll still have to face the consequences, of course. But we have time to reach in our hearts and consciousness and do the right thing for the safety and well-being of our loved pets and set an example as one of the leading communities pursuing justice for the less fortunate and voiceless animals locked up until they become the most profitable. We must be the change we wish to see in the world is one of my favorite quotes by Gandhi. We can start this change in our community today and set the example for other communities, states, and even the world. I love Colorado Springs, and I know we can do this together and stop cruelty practices from spreading any further simply by passing bills that reflect the goodness in all of us, which in turn will provide us with a better future for our children and loved ones. Our actions do matter, so let's act now and pass this law once and for all. And thank you for this opportunity again to speak for the voiceless. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gracie. Our next speaker will be Kate Whitting, if you are there. Kate? Kate, if you are on the phone, you can press *6 to unmute yourself. Kate, all right. I see you on there. Press *6 to unmute yourself from the phone. All right, Kate, we'll come back to you. Our next speaker is going to be Karen Zimmerman. Karen, are you there? We'll come back to Karen as well. Our next speaker will be Jeremy Siegel. Jeremy, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, Jeremy, we can hear you. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on. I'll make this brief. I didn't really prepare any kind of a speech, but listening to all the examples, it seems this is a very easy determination to make. It seems like it's a bipartisan issue that everybody can agree that, you know, these puppies end up abused, they end up sick, they carry diseases, and it's, you know, all around just not very good for the community. And you know, one of the things that I guess I'd like to address is, you know, I sent a couple of letters to city council members, and a few have responded. Some elected, you know, not to respond. But I think it's an important issue, and it sounds like there's a large demand for this law. And I would just say, you know, from personal experience, I had a dog when I was a kid named Corky, he was a stud in a puppy mill. And this poor dog was so abused. He was skittish. You couldn't go near him without him cowering in fear. And it was, you know, it was pretty sad to see. And so I just think that this is such an important issue that everybody can agree upon. And it doesn't sound like there's much opposition to it. I would think that this would be a very easy decision to make. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Our next speaker will be Kathy.
Hello.
Is Kathy there?
I'm Kathy Meinig, but somebody else I think came on and was trying to talk, but I'm happy to go ahead.
No problem. We will get people that haven't signed up or that we have passed. We'll get you at the end. We'll come back around, okay? But Kathy, the floor is yours this time.
Great, thank you. Good evening, and thanks a lot for hosting this town hall. I understand that this ordinance appears complicated, but really it has a simple concern at the basis of it, and I feel that that's overriding because the suffering has to be addressed. I would like to reinforce the point that while we certainly don't want to put Pet City out of business, we cannot as humans just ignore the horrors that go on, and this mandates a change in any business that relies on suffering for profit. I totally agree with Councilwoman Avila when she said that the pipeline must be addressed to stop the inhumane treatment of animals. And I think I'm speaking to the choir here because I believe both Council members Strand and Murray support this. I guess I want to know what we can do to encourage the council to to make a change and pass some kind of protection for these animals. So if you have any suggestions, I'm happy to write letters. Is there any point that maybe they can rework the ordinance to alleviate some of the concerns of some council members who really are having a problem with passing this? Because I'm sure that they don't want animals to suffer either. I guess I'm just wanting to know which direction to go in order to move this issue forward. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, Alex, this is Tom. Let me jump in real quick. We're not going to do this very often, but Kathy asked what you can do, the listeners of what you can do. The quite frank, the fact of the matter is, every Tuesday, the second and fourth Tuesdays of regular meetings, we have citizen comments. And I would encourage several of you at each one of those meetings to make some kind of statement about the humanity or inhumanity to our pets and our puppies in particular. The other thing is, I get literally in a week, I'll get hundreds of email from the community about land development issues, projects that are going on that are either commercial projects or residential projects, but I don't get a lot of email about concerns in this area of an ordinance for the protection of our puppies. So, please use those avenues to reach out. We're right around the corner, 2 weeks from last Tuesday to the new election. We won't be able to get to this until we get into April, but I know Bill and I, and if Yolanda is reelected, we are going to work this very hard in the month of April.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know you always answer your emails, and I appreciate that too. So thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you, Kathy and Tom. Our next speaker will be Susan Repp. I see you have your hand up. Susan, if you'd like to speak now, you can.
Good evening. Good evening, council members. Thank you for doing this evening. This is a very important piece of legislation and close to my heart. This is a very sobering fact. So the first humane societies were founded in the United Kingdom in 1774. Think about this. 246 years across the world, we've been trying to improve the humane treatment of animals. 246 years. And we're still slogging